Okay, we're grading section 2 worksheet. Thank you for those of you who already have it out. You're right on the ball. Good job.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you.
I'll move it out in a minute. Got it right here. If I can find it. There we go. Got it.
I swear I didn't. I don't know, that's what scares me.
You told me. Because I asked. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna try. Yeah, you told me. Oh, I'm gonna say no. And you said, yeah, might have. Stop stopping us, Greta. And then they were at the same time.
I didn't tell you that.
And then I asked how you knew.
Everybody got it?
And then you said because he.
I swear I was talking to somebody else when I said that.
Me.
I don't know. Are you sure?
Oh, I know. Stop talking to her.
So Chase, you need to share this again with me. If you did share it before, I haven't seen it. Section 1 or section 2 for this sheet. Okay, so I'm gonna mute you while we go over this till you share it. And then somebody's gonna in the gym for just doing what should be required of you?
Yeah.
Oh.
It's It's a big accomplishment.
Ryder,
10 out of 10.
Bella, Avery,
10 out of 10.
Lily,
9.
Ben,
10 out of 10.
Allison,
8 out of 10.
Lucy,
9.
Grayson,
9.
Gianna,
9.
Andrew,
10 out of 10.
Mikey, Joey, Clara,
9.
Maddie,
7.
Christian, Ewan, Emily.
10.
How many?
10.
9 or 10?
10 out of 10.
Greta,
10.
Lewis.
10.
Does anybody have a question on this? So, we could say there were 3 reasons we got involved in the war. 2 major reasons and then one of Wilson's idealistic points. Remember Wilson we said was idealistic, which means what?
Watch the rules.
How he hoped things to be. So what are the 3 reasons? 1,
Zimmerman? No.
the Zimmerman note. And what is that? So Germany asked Mexico to what? Come fight the U.S. Because basically Germany underestimated the quickness at which the U.S. could get ready. What's the term for getting ready? You should know that term too. What's the term for getting ready for a war?
Mobilize.
Mobilize. So Germany underestimated, they figured that the war would be over before the U.S. could be mobilized. And they just wanted Mexico maybe to just keep us busy for a little time so then they could be done with the war. So they underestimated, because Mexico was a very weak nation. Okay? It would have been ridiculous for Mexico to what? To do that, because chances are they would have lost even more territory. We might have Mexico today, it might be ours. If they tried to get into this war. What's the second reason?
Wasn't it like the sinking of the Lusitania?
Well, if it was the sinking of the Lusitania, when did that happen?
Or the,
What year?
do you remember it was something about the
When did the sinking of Lusitania happen?
1914.
Nobody knows?
Oh.
That's because I only told you to remember 2 dates on this, right?
1980.
Well, really, we should know 3 dates. You know what the 3 dates are?
1914, 1917, and
Yeah. 1914, because that's what, when the war started. 1917, because what? We got into the war. So, U.S.
Wait,
declares war. We should put this together, huh?
1917?
April of 1917,
Okay.
wasn't it April?
August. That was when the war started.
Okay. So we got this. So Lusitania sunk in 1915. We didn't join the war till what? 1917. So it can't be the Lusitania. It's what the Lusitania stood for, is the reason, right?
Unrestricted submarine warfare.
So unrestricted submarine warfare. You should know what their subs are called too, what are their subs called? U-boats, right? What was the bad thing about this?
they can fire on ships without warning.
And what's the bad thing about that?
They could kill.
Kill civilians even
Civilians.
So innocent people were being killed. Because remember, what side is this doing it?
the
Germany.
triple.
What side is that?
Triple alliance.
Well, when the war
Central
starts,
Powers.
it's called something else. What's it called when the war starts?
Central Powers.
Central Powers. So the Central Powers were doing this. But the Allied powers were also what?
Disguising their ships.
They were interfering with trade too. They just weren't what? Taking innocent lives. So what's the third reason? In fact, what was Wilson's reason when he went to Congress to declare war? He said, we're doing this, why? Because something else happened in 1917. Did you read about that? What else happened in 1917? One of the Allies got out of the war. Which of the Allies got out of the war?
France.
Russia.
Russia got out of the war. Why did they get out of the war?
They had some problems there on.
They had too many people were starving. Okay, the country was in dire straits, so they had a revolution. They changed from what kind of government did they have before? What kind of government did Russia have before? You know who the head of the government in Russia is called?
Oh. A czar?
A czar. They had a czar, so a czar is like a king. So what kind of government did they have?
Monarchy.
Monarchy. An absolute monarchy. So the czar had total power. And when they got out of the war, the czar abdicated. What's abdicate mean?
Leave.
He gave up the throne. And they set up a new government. And the government they set up was a democratic government. So Wilson's reason here, third reason, is to make the world safe for what? That's his famous quote. To make the world safe for democracy. So now he said, in Wilson's mind, the sides were clearly drawn. On one side, you have the Allies, who are all what kind of nations? What kind of nations are the Allies? Look at the quote. What kind of nations were they?
Democracy.
They were democracies. But the Central Powers were all what?
Monarchy.
Monarchies or authoritarian governments. So he's saying we're getting in. So his idealistic reason is,
Do you want to
okay?
Chase?
I did.
Oh.
Okay. The reason we're getting in is to make the world safe for democracy. So, once we do get in April, okay, we have to do what? We have to do this, right? We have to mobilize, and then you have to, so we mobilize by having a what? That was on your sheets, right? What do we have?
The
We had a draft, which they called the what?
the
Selective
Selective Service Act.
Service Act. What does that mean?
Every man between the ages of 21 and 30 are required to register.
So if you were a man between those ages, you had to register for the draft, and if your number was selected, what? You had to go and fight. It was required. What if you didn't? They'd put you in prison. So under the draft, you were required to go and fight. And so, even many that didn't. Where's my sheet here? Who were the first ones that went called? $24 million men registered for the draft. So, 24 million. Out of that 24 million, how many got selected? 4 million only. Now that 4 million, how many actually went? 2 million. And who were the first people to go? What would they call them? They called them the A, E, F. And of course, you can't do that in Mr. Hale's class, because this is what?
This is a,
Abbreviation. We can't have abbreviation, so you have to know what this is. What is it? American, you got that part right. Expeditionary Force. American Expeditionary Force. So they're the first ones to go over. And who was their leader? It's our only 6-star general in the history of our country.
6 stars.
He's dead.
General John J. Nickname Blackjack. General John J. what?
A Yankee American. Black.
Pershing. General John J. Pershing. American Expeditionary Force. How many?
2 million.
2 million. General John J. Pershing is the one. So we're gonna finish that video. We started a video last time, didn't we?
Yeah.
So we'll finish that one, watch another one real quick, and then we're gonna look at, this, again, is called the war front. They're going over to the war front. They're gonna face, what are they gonna face when they get there? What have you guys been doing, we said? 1914, 1915, 1916. April is what month? 4th, so it's about a third of 1917. By the time they get there in April, they get there at the end of May, so almost 14, 15, 16, 17. Okay, almost 4.5 years that the other nations have been fighting one. Kind of warfare? Trench warfare. So you're out in the trenches every day, you're running across the trench, try to take somebody else's trench, and all you see is what? All the people that died, all your buddies. So if you're still alive after all these years, it's a miracle in one thing. You still have all your body parts. Some people be alive, but they're missing body parts. Some people also, their minds go. Because if you're not desensitized to the war, okay, your mind can't handle this, because this isn't normal behavior. But of course, the troops that we had, this was very important, because one, Russia was out, so now it's just down to what allies?
France and Great Britain and us.
So you should have said Russia left right here, right? Why did they leave? We could say because of a revolution. So they're down to just France and Great Britain. So it was like a big boost for them. Because you had these Americans coming in the same way that the British and Frenchmen first came in, thinking what? We're gonna get in here and kick some butt. That's what they're thinking. That's how they came over. What's the term for that? If you have those feelings, what's the term for that? USA. USA. Nationalism. We're gonna show them. Until those soldiers got there and they got to experience what? Trench warfare. Totally changed things again. But again, they only experienced it. So it went from April and the war ends. When does the war end? So here's the 3 dates. So we got the U.S. entering, we got when the war started, and when the war ends. The 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month of 1918. What do we have on November 11th in our country? What do we have on November 11th? Joey or Mike, you want to pull those shades? It's not Memorial Day. Memorial Day's in May. What's this day called? November 11th. Originally, it was called Armistice Day. This is called what? Veterans Day.
Oh yeah, Veterans Day.
Okay. So Chase, we're going to watch a couple of those movies. If we talk about if we get to the home front, I'll come back to you and make 2 videos today.